Well, it's time for Restaurant Storytime IV, Murder on the Prep Room Floor. I had so much fun just getting the title ready. That's why this is like the king of all of my Restaurant Storytime stories, at least until I really think about more. But this is the one I wanted. When I thought of Restaurant Storytime, this is what popped in my head. But it needed to wait until part 4 for the rhyme because it's good cheesy. Now, this story is 100% true, and the thing is I have to keep it vague with people. So the people that were there will remember it. The people that weren't there but might have worked with me at some point in time will not believe this was real. So we will preface this with 2 things. So where I worked for many years, starting in the early 1990s, we had a restaurant, we had a parking lot, and across the parking lot we had a barn that functioned as a prep room with our walk-in and freezer, and then part of the barn where we had some dry goods. We had people stored their cars in there, and there were random little hallways and creepy rooms. The barn, though, was a double-edged sword. It was really a unique setup as far as working and doing food prep, but it was old, it was drafty, it had holes in it. So that all adds up to the fact that things would get into the barn. We had birds, we had mice, we had skunks, and we'll leave that there because this story does have to do with some sort of wildlife. Now let's dip over to the main protagonist of this story. For many years we had a dishwasher who worked there at night. He was a nice guy, but he was quirky. He was kind of on the autism spectrum, more in the way of like Rain Man, the movie, where he was kind of a savant. He had a very strict way of doing everything. His dishes were always immaculate. He was arrived at the exact same time every day. He was someone that his quirks weren't anything distracting. They weren't anything that caused issues. And he was so good at his job that you could just set your watch to him. So now I've given you a bit of the backstory of the main players. So let's roll forward to this actual story that is 100% true. So I was not there this night when this happened, but I got all the stories from everybody who was there. It was a summer night in the mid-1990s. One interesting thing about the setup with the barn is the fact that sometimes when you would wash dishes, there would be things like next door there was a cheese grater, there was a meat slicer, things like that would have to get washed and brought across next door and put away. So this one summer evening, the dishwasher had washed whatever it was he had to wash, walked across the parking lot to bring it into the prep room, and when he opened the door to the prep room, he was caught with a big surprise. In the prep room was a full-size possum. I wasn't there, so I don't know if he was spooked. I don't know if fight or flight took over. I don't know what started this chain of events. So we'll leave you there. So the dishwasher is in the prep room with a full-size live possum. Our night prep guy was a summer guy. He was from New Zealand. Super nice guy, had the really cool New Zealand accent. He must have gone across the parking lot to either use the bathroom or get something to drink or something, because he had to return to the prep room after. So this part of the story is straight from this prep guy's mouth to my ears. So he walked across. The door to the prep room was slightly ajar, so he pushed it, walked inside, and there's an immediate room where you walk in that would lead you to the walk-in refrigerator and the freezer, and straight ahead of you is another room kind of in the back. So the back prep room there was a little bit obscured. So this guy walked past the opening to that prep room, and there is the dishwasher crouched behind one of the big round trash bins. And he is repeatedly stabbing this possum with a full-size chef's knife. And, I mean, just going to town on it like it was a Halloween movie. So the prep guy looks at him, and he was just like, "What are you doing?" And the dishwasher looks at him with this wild look in his eyes, with the knife, just blood all over it. And he then says to the prep guy, I had to do it. He picks up the possum. It's just blood dripping on the floor. The prep guy runs out, goes back all the way across the parking lot to just tell them what he has seen. And I kid you not, this is in the summer at night. So I'm sure the parking lot was full of cars. So back then, some of the servers and cooks, if they needed to, they would go out onto the deck and they would smoke outside. So there was a collection of people on the deck smoking. The prep guy came back over to start to explain what he saw. Not far behind him was the dishwasher carrying the knife and carrying the carcass, the bloody carcass of this possum, to show all of the other employees that are standing on the deck. And they were horrified that this just massacred animal. And I don't know if the dishwasher, if he didn't understand that they were freaked out, or if he kind of enjoyed it, because he said he had to do it because it was in the prep room. But then he started stabbing it more, like jabs with the knife, to freak them out more. I know they all screamed and they made him throw it out into the marsh that was right next to the restaurant. And he ended up having to go back into the prep room and scrub the animal's blood off the prep room floor. And I know this for a fact because I had to work the next morning. And when I came in, the prep room, you wouldn't have known that a violent murder of an animal had happened there. And that's when I got told the story. It's unbelievable. If I hadn't heard it, if I hadn't worked there, I wouldn't have believed it. That a possum was in the prep room and the dishwasher stabbed it to death on the prep room floor, then showed it off to everyone like a trophy. But he was a unique character, to say the least. He was one of those where you thought he was a dishwasher because he needed the money. But in reality, like I said, he was sort of like Rain Man, like a savant. And he had invested wisely in utilities. So his only vacation he would take every year was to go out to California and inspect his utilities. But we found out years later, his net worth was somewhere between $3 and $4 million, which means he did not have to do the dishwashing. He did it because he wanted to. And we would always make jokes with him that we were going to pretend to throw ourselves down the stairs and blame him throwing water out on the deck so we could sue him and get his money. And like I was saying, he was excellent at his job. Like, you could set your watch to him. He'd be there at a certain time. He'd kick ass washing the dishes, clean everything up and go. No trouble, no nothing. Until he decided it was time to retire. This is a little special bonus restaurant story time here. So this dishwasher, when he decided it was time to retire, it was over in that instant. This was another summer night. I believe it was July, a few years after the possum massacre. And he was washing the dishes during the dinner shift. And all of a sudden, this is totally true, he suddenly just straightened up and looked around and said, "All right, that's it." He took his apron off and walked out and never came back. He basically said, "Have a nice life," to the cooks that were there, to the servers that were there, walked out, got on his bike and rode home and never came back. It's unbelievable how he could just flip a switch and he was just like, "I'm finished." The cooks there were not happy. As he was thrilled that he was retiring, the cooks were pissed off that he just bailed in the middle of the shift in the summer. But that's Restaurant Storytime Part 4. This very unique dishwasher killing the possum, retiring in the middle of a shift, having a net worth of $3 or $4 million, but doing dishes. He was definitely unique, and one that if I hadn't worked with him for years, I wouldn't believe he was a real person. But hopefully I'll think of more fun restaurant story time tales to share with you. I don't know if any are going to be bloody like this one, but I'm sure they'll be funny though.